The war had ended 3 cycles ago, but Varric still saw her face every time he closed his eyes. The Kethra were apex predators, 7 feet of scaled muscle, retractable claws and jaws that could crush durasteel. They had ruled the Outer Rim for millennia, their empire built on conquest and blood. No species had ever made them kneel, until humanity arrived. Humans were small, fragile. Their bones broke easily, their skin tore like paper, and they lacked natural weapons. The Kethra had laughed when the Terran coalition first made contact. They had laughed harder when humanity declared war after the Kethra raided a human colony world. That laughter died quickly. Humans didn't fight like other species. They didn't retreat when wounded. They didn't surrender when outnumbered. They fought with a creativity and viciousness that terrified even the Kethra. Worst of all, they had something no other species possessed: an irrational need to protect the innocent, even their enemies young. Varric learned this lesson on the moon of Thargax, and it haunted him still. He had been captain of the Elite Guard, the Kethra's most decorated unit. When human forces surrounded their position in the ancient temple complex, Varric knew death was coming. His soldiers were exhausted, ammunition running low, but they had one advantage: hostages. 17 Kethra cubs huddled in the temple's inner sanctum, offspring of soldiers, civilians caught in the war zone. They were barely past their first molt, their scales still soft, eyes wide with terror. They won't risk the cubs, Varric had told his second-in-command, Wraith. Humans are sentimental about younglings. We use them as shields, we survive. Wraith had nodded, but his crest had flattened in shame. Even among the Kethra, using cubs as shields was considered cowardice. But survival outweighed honor. Then she arrived. Lyra was a combat medic attached to the 4th Terran Marines. Varric learned her name only later from the recordings. She was unremarkable by human standards. Average height, brown hair tied back, a face that carried the exhaustion of endless war. Her armor was scorched from plasma fire, her rifle nearly out of charge. She approached under a white flag, alone. "Let me see the cubs," she called out in broken Kethran, her voice amplified by her helmet speaker. "Just want to make sure they're okay." Varric had laughed. "You think we're fools, human? You come close, we kill you." "I know," Lyra replied calmly. "But those children are terrified. Let me check if they're hurt. Then I'll leave." It was a trick. It had to be. Varric allowed it anyway. Let the humans waste their medic. When she stepped through the temple entrance, hands raised, medkit visible, his soldiers trained their weapons on her. She ignored them. Lyra walked past Kethra warriors who could have torn her apart with a casual swipe, straight to where the cubs huddled. She knelt slowly, making herself small, non-threatening. "Hey there," she whispered, pulling out a scanner. "I'm just going to check you over, okay? I'm not going to hurt you." The cubs hissed and trembled, but she was patient. She scanned each one, her hands gentle despite the claws that could have easily shredded her fingers. One cub had a burned foot. She cleaned it, applied synthetic skin, murmuring soft reassurances the whole time. Varric watched, confused. This wasn't protocol. This wasn't tactics. This was genuine care. When she finished, Lyra stood slowly and turned to face him. "They need water and food. They're dehydrated. I'm going to bring supplies. You leave, you don't come back," Varric growled. "I'll come back," she said simply. And she did. 4 times over the next 6 hours, bringing water, ration packs designed for Kethra biology, thermal blankets. Each time she risked death. Each time she tended to the cubs with a tenderness that made Varric's scales itch with something he couldn't name. The 4th time, the human commander's patience ran out. The assault came at dawn. Plasma bolts lit up the temple like lightning, and Varric's soldiers returned fire desperately. The cubs screamed in terror, pressed against the back wall. That's when Lyra made her choice. She was evacuating the last of the cubs when Wraith, panicking and cornered, opened fire at shadows near the entrance. The angle was wrong. His shots would hit the cubs. Physics and trajectories were absolute. Lyra moved faster than Varric thought possible for a human. She threw herself between the cubs and the incoming fire, her body spread wide, arms outstretched like a shield made of flesh. The plasma rounds hit her center mass. 3 shots, 4, 5. Her armor held for the first 2. The rest burned through. Varric watched her fall in slow motion. Watched her hit the ground, smoke rising from the holes in her chest. Watched her hand, shaking, dying, reach out to touch the nearest cub's snout. "It's okay," she gasped, blood bubbling from her lips. "You're safe now." The cub she touched would later be named Lyrikai in her honor. The human assault stopped immediately. A ceasefire was called. The cubs were released unharmed. Varrox and his surviving soldiers were taken prisoner. At his war crimes tribunal, Varrox expected execution. Instead, the human judge sentenced him to life, not in a cell but in service. He would spend the rest of his days working in Terran Kethra orphanages, caring for war orphans of both species. Lyra believed in protecting children, all children, the judge said. You will honor her memory by doing the same. 20 cycles later, Varrox still worked with the younglings. His claws, once weapons, now tied shoelaces and wiped tears. The human staff called him by name, treated him with respect he didn't deserve. Every night he stood before Lyra's memorial, a simple stone in the garden where cubs of all species played. Her words were engraved there, the last transmission from her helmet recorder. "They're just kids. Someone has to protect them." Varrox knelt, his massive frame dwarfing the small monument. His voice, once used to bark orders and threats, now whispered broken apologies. "I understand now," he said to the stone. To her memory, to the universe that had shown him humanity's terrible, beautiful strength. You didn't save them because it was tactical. You saved them because it was right. Behind him, a mixed group of human and Kethra cubs laughed as they played. They knew nothing of war, nothing of the cost paid for their innocence. Varrox would carry that cost forever. It was his honor. It was his penance. It was Lyra's legacy.